Hello, Embers. Welcome back to Ember Exchange. I'm Dylan.
I'm Jill.
I'm Heidi.
And I'm Nick.
We are very excited to have another conversation today. The four of us, we're still in our new arrangement, which is fun. And today we're going to be talking more on the theme of marriage-related stuff. That is weddings, specifically. And not like weighty things about weddings. It's going to be like lighthearted things about weddings. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Hope you guys are too. Let's stoke some conversation.
Well, thanks for being here, Embers. This is Jill, not Dylan, but I am going to introduce a little more of our topic today because there are two women in this group, Heidi and myself, and we generally have more opinions about weddings than our two significant others.
Now, not to be fair, we had opinions like, I would like to get married, or I would like the bride to be you. Like,
Those are
I felt very
opinions.
strongly about those things.
Uh-huh.
But like what color the table setting was, didn't care.
Correct.
And I think you've shared some of the things that we're going to talk about. Things like, do you want to do a first look or not?
Nick was like, "What's a first look?"
So that gives you a bit of a sense. That's why
I did indeed say that.
that's why Jill and Heidi are going to drive this episode, and Nick and I are going to be over here providing snide commentary from the peanut gallery throughout.
Yes.
But hopefully this is entertaining, at least for the Embers.
So it is a continuation of our topic on family values and marriage, and we are still kind of coming out of Pride Month here. So we're going to focus on Christian marriage. Now, also, if you were unaware as well, two of our hosts, the ones to my left, Nick and Heidi, are actually also getting married soon.
Yes.
So
In the thick of the wedding planning.
In the thick of the
really,
wedding planning.
Just letting the Embers look through the window on what your guys' wedding planning looks like.
Wonderful.
And so, not that you should take to heart anything that I have to say on this, but I mean, you'll know my opinions.
Good. We want that.
Anyway,
But that's also for any Embers that have gotten married or maybe are also getting married. These are definitely our opinions and
Yes.
no one else's. And when it comes down to it, if we're all being honest, Dylan and I had the best wedding that there ever could be. So you should take our opinion in pretty
Right.
high regard.
everyone thinks that they have the best
But-
wedding, but everyone is wrong
Yes.
because we had the best.
Correct.
We're all wrong.
No, the
Yeah.
sentiment though is I'm gonna say some things that I like and some things that I don't like. And if you did the things that I don't like in your wedding, this is not me like indicting you and saying, boy, your wedding sucked. Like, it was probably the best wedding for you. This is just my opinion. So,
Yes.
and that's all of our opinions. So please don't get mad at us in the comments if we denigrate something that you thought was the coolest thing ever. Please.
Right. And people have all sorts of ideas what they want to do. So
They
Yes.
do.
do what you please.
Yeah. And
To an
so
extent.
we will kick off. Dylan did just hint at the fact that we are going to first start with to first look or not to look.
Can you define for those of us who may be new to the term,
Including me.
what is a first look?
A first look is when the bride and the groom see each other. It can be privately with like a photographer or videographer before the bride walks down the aisle. Traditionally speaking, the bride and groom are not supposed to see each other until that moment, and in recent history, it's become more common practice to do what's called a first look. There are multiple first looks that can happen. A first look with the bride and groom is typically what people are talking about when they just say first look, but there's also the first look with the father of the bride. There's the first look with
The bridesmaids.
yes, the bridesmaids, the groomsmen. So there can be many, but for all
So for
intents and purposes,
for the purpose of this conversation, let's narrow that to
to bride and groom.
the bride and
Bride
groom.
and groom.
Yes.
And then can you give me a sense of why somebody might care? Or maybe to put it less disparagingly, can you give me a sense of what would be the reason from changing from the tradition? Why would you do a separate event?
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, like the for the first look arguments might be photos. So
Yeah.
logistically, that's like probably I'm assuming where it actually came from. I didn't look the history of this up, but logistically, there's a lot of things and moving pieces in a wedding, including the people themselves. And so being able to do a first look, if you are, for example, some weddings they'll move venues, so they will have the ceremony one place and they'll have this reception somewhere else, and there's like a nice little time gap where your guests have to travel to the other location, and maybe in the middle there the bride and groom who didn't do the first look and just saw each other down the aisle could quick like get some photos in with their group and their bridal party. However, if you're at the same venue or you don't have that time gap or you're trying to keep things on a tighter timeline, you can get all of those photos done first, the ones that include the bride and the groom being able to look at each other with their bridal party because they've already seen each other.
Yeah.
Got it. So can I repeat back to you what I think I just heard you say? You're saying that the time of which you have to take whole wedding part, like the normal photos that people
Yes.
take at weddings, is more challenging to fit in if you have to do it after the ceremony and before the reception.
Correct.
So in order to enable you to take photos before the ceremony and also preserve some semblance of the first time you see the bride in that tradition, then you have this separate event.
Yes.
And oftentimes, if you don't do a first look, you're doing pictures during cocktail hour. And it's becoming more commonplace for the bride and groom to join cocktail hour to actually like talk to the people that they've invited.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
Right.
yeah.
There's another photo reason, I think. So we did a first look. So
Yes.
Jill and I did a first look at ours.
Did.
The other reason is also photo related. I think a plus for it was you also just get better photos of it.
Because
Right.
you're fresh.
Well, that, but also like the
There's no
photographer
crowd.
can like stage a little bit. So like I can stop and stand and then they can come from one side and they come from the other side, as opposed to like if you're walking down the aisle, you get like 3 seconds to snap the shot and get the look.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, it's staged a little bit, but you do get better photos. And I think some of our best photos were from the first look. We got a couple in our bedroom that are really cool.
Yeah.
This actually raises an interesting point to me, the Instagramification of weddings.
Yes, so that's why a first look is a thing, is because now we have professional photographers and
Right.
videographers and like the glam.
Yes. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
I don't know if it's a moral thing. I think it is just a thing
Okay.
that has
Yeah.
happened.
If you like it or not.
Yeah.
I think also one of the kind of for the first look arguments that I heard, because we had a first look, you were going to see so many people during the wedding and like the whole thing is kind of a blur. It was nice to have that like
Yeah.
moment by ourselves privately.
Yeah, you just
Oh,
kind of
nice.
get that intimate moment. And then also I've heard to calm nerves, people like to do a first look. Because then you aren't so anticipatory and nervous.
See, I don't know. So part of my reason for wanting to like do it down the aisle is that I tremendously enjoy anticipation and surprises.
Yes.
And so like I'm the type of guy who loathes the idea of opening any Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. Like that tremendously bothers me. I would rather wait for
The morning.
Christmas morning.
Okay, so you were not peeking.
Oh goodness, no, that would ruin
Okay.
the surprise. And so for that reason, I was partial to the traditional way.
Yeah.
Though I will say the pictures that we got out of it were really good.
Yeah.
And we also coupled that. So we did the traditional vows during the ceremony, but we wrote vows for each other and we read them to each other at the first look, which was nice
Right.
as well. So you got that little separate thing. But
Yeah. I don't know. It's a big debate. I
It
think
is.
most people are going first look
Yeah.
these days.
Nick, do you have a strong, having heard all the arguments?
So we
you
talked a little bit before.
Okay.
Leaned more towards the first look
Okay.
after having it been described to me by Heidi.
I
just
wonder
for
if
the
it's because
fact is-
Heidi is partial to the first look.
You may think that, and I get it, but actually, like I liked it more because of not the anticipation anymore of just, I guess, standing there, which I'm not really sure what that's like yet, obviously, but and just the time alone.
The thing is, if you do a first look, it does ruin that shock In awe.
But to me, it's like you're going to have that same shock just in a different setting. It's whether or not you're okay with it being in that setting. I think to me, it's going to be just as much of a surprise to see you, but it's just not going to be in front of everyone. And to me, I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It'll be
And
nice.
that can be a pro and a con, right?
Right.
Yeah,
You're sharing that moment with everyone, but you're also not sharing that moment with everyone. And it just comes down to personal preference, really,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it would be great too because half of my family, like extended and immediate, aren't going to understand what it is. They're going to think that it's, they're going to think that the first look was then anyways. So,
Yeah.
You just
I
have to
don't know.
pretend to be surprised.
yeah, I'll be like,
Oh wow. That's
Very
that's
light.
wow. I've never seen that before.
Yes.
The one thing that you are doing is you're robbing the guests of a huge hit of aw dopamine. Like, so let's be honest, weddings for the guests are, some of them are there to support you, and for some of them it's a spectator sport. Particularly the women, okay? Right?
You're not wrong.
Like, women go to weddings because they want to, aw. And so when they see, like, the groom tear up because it's the first time seeing the bride, that's like a huge, like, I'm sure Heidi can relate to just
Yes.
like the feeling of like, oh my gosh, he's
crying.
he's crying. And so if you've seen it already, he's like, seen that already.
I know.
So you're robbing the guests of that experience.
It's fine. I was able to give my guests both because my dad did our wedding since he was pastor. And literally, like, he had to tell 7 jokes, and my sisters were behind me crying, like, immediately. Like, we took care of it elsewhere.
Right.
The crying.
Yeah.
Anyway, just thought I'd bring it up, the spectator sport component of weddings.
It is
For
true.
women.
They're
Yeah.
not the ones
Men
that
go
matter,
to like
though.
Analyzed.
WWE, women go to weddings.
Just to
It
like
does the same thing for each of us.
Yeah, talk about what we would have done and what we would have not done. Whatever.
yeah.
Anyway, you'll do a thing and it'll be great and you'll remember it as being the best choice, whatever it was.
Well, that gives you some ideas, at least our bride and groom to be, if you want to or don't want to have a first look. On to our next topic that has to do with weddings. We want to also give maybe both you guys and our Embers some, let's call them tips and tricks. Maybe.
This isn't just because we got married though. Like, even if you're
No.
not married, you can have tips and tricks because let's be honest, even if you're not married, you've probably been to a wedding
Yeah.
and
lot
you've known things that have worked well
Yes.
and things that have not worked well. So this is
Precisely.
just the space for us to share like, hey, this was really cool, or do not do this thing.
Yes.
Yes.
And some of them are going to be kind of funny, but also seriously, like, don't do some of these things, guys.
Okay. What do you got for us?
I think my first one would be, I think the strapless dress thing for bridesmaids almost always loses.
100% of the time.
Your bridesmaids are not clones of each other. And you're guaranteed to have someone that just strapless dresses. You have an opinion on this, right, dear?
I have an opinion.
Oh, do you? I was just going to say, Nick, I'm sure that you feel very strongly.
Okay, are we for it or against it?
Okay, no.
Are you for it or
Yeah,
are
you don't get to know what they think first, Nick.
Oh,
Have
I'm
an
sorry.
original thought,
Okay.
brother.
No, okay.
With all of your knowledge of strapless dresses.
It's not very appropriate. So
That's not the line I don't. Okay,
I'm
so
against it. I don't.
uh,
That's my opinion.
modesty aside, because I think that there are ways to do strapless dresses that are not. But you
That's
could make
really-
an argument otherwise.
It is true.
Not for everyone involved.
You can do a straight across cut.
Still don't think we should have them
Cut.
Why?
because
Because Heidi's glaring at you.
I just think it could be problematic. It could be problematic on the dance floor later that night.
Good answer. Good answer.
Okay. Highly specific answer.
Yeah, that's all my answers.
Can I take a guess? So, I imagine that the challenge is that humans come in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
And sleeves help obscure certain things that are of different shapes and sizes.
Well said.
Good job.
And like, yeah, some ladies look really cute in a strapless dress.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to wear a strapless dress since I was 12.
Yeah.
So
It's just not realistic. It's just not a realistic expectation. And generally, I think that wedding attire is not the most functional attire that you're going to ever wear in your life, period.
oh, certainly not.
But then by making it a strapless dress, you've taken away like all functionality of a dress.
Yeah. I do really like the trends of letting your bridesmaids pick something that they're comfortable in.
Yes.
As long as it's just the same color.
Yes.
You don't even have to do the same color.
Generally, it's
Yeah.
similar
that's new to me.
color or it's similar color palette. Like maybe
Yes.
it's been narrowed down to like 1 or 2 colors, and they're all like pastels or they're all vibrant. Like you don't like pick a pastel and a vibrant usually like together.
Yeah.
But then you also pick a fabric that matches because you don't want like someone wearing a shimmery
Like
crepe and then like
sequins.
another person is like, I'm gonna wear lace anyway.
You were saying?
There's a lot that goes into it.
There's a lot.
We just recommend no strapless dresses.
Yeah, I would recommend no strapless dresses.
If you're the bride, though, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
yeah, this is for the bridesmaids.
But like, I feel like we've all seen the picture of the bride. Just a little too much,
Yeah.
you know, like
Or
save
like
it for
literally
later.
like awkwardly like trying to hold her dress up.
Oh, that's the worst.
Can't say I've seen that, but
I don't
Following
spend
you.
time on Pinterest looking at wedding photos, though, either. So
Yeah, some of them are rough.
Yes.
So
All right.
just cover yourself up.
Yeah. Strapless dresses. Let's say no.
Yeah.
I also would like to say no to the man of honor and best woman thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
what?
Like,
Yeah.
guys, if you
What does that mean?
yeah, I'm
like if I had a brother, if I had a brother and he was the closest sibling or my only sibling, instead of just putting him on your side, I would have made him my man of honor.
Yeah, your man of honor.
So, but he's not helping you like get dressed or do your makeup and stuff. So, what does he do?
So I think it's typically not a brother. From my understanding, it's like if you have a best friend,
Yeah,
oh,
that
then that's
too.
extra no.
a gay man would be a great.
Yeah.
I couldn't
example
say
of a
no
man.
that many times that would be necessary.
That's just not a
Whoa.
thing. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't
typically
care
gay
if
men.
I don't care if he likes men. Like, you can stay away from my woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, done.
Even if it's a brother and sister situation, I feel
Nah.
like you can just put him on the other side.
So my sister had joked about me being the man of honor before, and I thought it was just like a joke. I didn't realize it was an actual thing. That's very surprising. All right.
So wait, Jill, are you talking like actual man of honor and what would it be for the
Best woman.
best woman? Or are you saying like the guys and girls stand on different sides?
No, I'm saying that I have 4 bridesmaids, but I don't have a maid of honor. I have
Yeah, that's wrong.
a brother because he's my brother, and so I wanted him to stand closest on my side. But the rest of all my people are bridesmaids,
Nah.
So weird.
isn't it?
I don't mind the thing where like family stands on the side of
Like to stand there, yeah,
stand
but
there.
he's still a groomsman.
right, he's still a groomsman. For
But I
example,
just-
my brother would stand on my side. But then I'm like, we're all one family anyway.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't
That's
matter.
the point.
And
You're all becoming a
symmetry.
family.
Is
And
important.
It,
Or
yes.
is it anti-symmetry? Just put the men on one side and the women on the other side.
Yeah.
This isn't be
Yeah,
this isn't be
Anyway,
hard.
Yeah,
so
it's-
that's a no for me.
Just do it the right way.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah. Do it the right way, as Dylan said.
Okay, I have one that I would like to throw into the ring of a. I mean, it's kind of two things, but it's one thing. It comes out as like a category of things. There's two like rules that contribute to this. One is don't presume on the generosity of others,
Yes.
and second, don't weaponize secondhand embarrassment. And I'm referring specifically to the people who think it's funny and cool and cute to kidnap the bride for ransom or to go around like taking tips for kisses. Do not do this.
Okay, the bride for ransom thing. What are you?
Yeah, some people, so they like you go to a wedding, you've bought a gift for the couple already. It's sitting on the table wrapped very nicely.
Yes.
And then they kidnap the bride and say, unless we raise $1,000, we're not bringing the bride back.
Who does that?
I have been at weddings where this has been done. It's extremely awkward. Do not do this.
No, that's horrible.
Yes. Or like if you want them to kiss, you have to like put a tip in the jar.
The honeymoon
Right,
fund
yeah.
thing, I'm also not a fan of
No,
that.
not
Yeah.
a thing.
Honeymoon fund or kiss for whatever, like all of those.
You can put the honeymoon fund on your registry, and if someone wants
Yes.
to donate to that,
Yeah.
But
at
the
that
thing is,
point,
having it be separate, you're like,
But that's
buy
like
me a gift and then also give me cash.
like, give me $1 for a kiss, and $20 is a better kiss. Like, I
Yeah.
can't with
or
that.
also.
What are you gonna
I
do
think
for
they-
100?
They also do. Don't they do? Like
ask.
not kiss, but like the dance money jar too. Like if
Yeah.
you want to dance with the bride, pay
That's
$1,
awkward.
That's also a thing.
And
yeah.
in my opinion, particularly going as far as, so A, in all of these cases, you're presuming on people's generosity.
Yes.
There's another aspect to that component that I'll get to in a second. But particularly for like, if it's a public thing where they're like, oh, we're kidnapping the bride, you are weaponizing secondhand embarrassment because everyone in your guest list is just like cringing inside and they're like, what are we supposed to do? And then people will give you
$20.
money because they feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That is weaponizing secondhand embarrassment.
it's manipulation at
Yeah.
its finest.
Yeah.
It is. So that is
Don't do
very
that.
cringe. Do not
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, don't do this new thing I just learned about.
Yes. Also related to the presuming on the generosity of others, this actually applies, I think, to the bride and groom. So if you're picking out bridesmaids' dresses or you're picking out tuxes, make it affordable for your wedding party, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
imagine that you had to be in the wedding of all 5 to 8 of your people and they all told you to buy the thing that you're telling them to buy. Would you buy the thing 8 times over for them?
Right.
If not, then it's too much. Or help them out, like, right? That's
Yeah.
something that, again, I think that there are people out there who are like, but it has to be this perfect, cute thing. And it's
No.
like, this is unreasonable.
Yes.
And like, I love you and I want to support you, but gee whiz, dude.
Correct.
Right? That is presuming on the generosity of others.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't do that.
100%.
Definitely.
I even sat down a survey. I said, "What's your budget?"
Hey, there you go.
it was quite well done, folks.
Tip and trick from the bride-to-be Heidi here.
Yeah.
That is what I think about those things.
Yes.
Yes. Can I offer an alternative to the honeymoon money fund?
Sure.
As a yes or another no.
As a, I don't know how I feel
Oh,
about this
okay.
yet.
Okay.
Okay, I've seen it done and I liked it, but also it might make people uncomfortable. So you put all the couples who are attending your wedding into like, you write their name on a slip of paper and you put it in a hat. And then you say that if you want the bride and groom to kiss, so if they're hitting the knives on the glasses, that we have to pick a name of a couple first. And they kiss, and however they kiss, the bride and groom kiss. So they stand up.
So it's like Simon Says.
Yeah, it's like,
You have to really trust your guests
Yeah.
that they're not going to do something.
I would anticipate like grandma and grandpa, if they would get called out, they would just like stand up and peck, and it would be cute and entertaining. And then we would stand up and give a little peck.
Or grandma and grandpa are like really big into embarrassing their
straight up
grandkids.
necking.
Right.
And they don't have any care in the world anymore.
They're just making out.
80 and I can do what I want.
And they take
Follow
their,
this, honey.
they take their teeth out and just start macking.
But that would be entertaining for the guests.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
It puts a fun twist on things.
You can participate as, like, it. I'm okay with it in as much as it leaves the voluntary participation to the
Yeah.
guest.
Like
Yeah.
if you
say
have a
if you-
jar at the start where like the guest book is or something, and you can say, if you would like to be a part of
Whatever you call it.
whatever you call it during the reception, put your name in, but don't just be like, here's my guest list. These people are all couples. All their names are going in.
Okay, that's what
Right.
I would have done. So that makes sense.
I think that, yeah, because maybe that couple is currently in the middle of an argument and they were like, all right, we are pausing for the wedding and this is not over yet.
Yeah.
And then you make them stand up and kiss in front of everyone. That's going to be super awkward.
Great for them, though. That's
But
good
maybe
for
it
them.
isn't.
But maybe not.
Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not. I don't know.
I mean,
But-
maybe
I would
it
say
is great.
voluntary participation
Maybe it is great for
important.
them, but it's not going to be great for you guys in that moment.
whatever.
You're like, we're not friends with them anymore.
Yeah, made us kiss. You're right. Maybe if it is a voluntary thing, it might be fun.
Yeah. I think if it's voluntary so they know that, like, essentially you're, like, doing a kiss cam.
Right. Then
But-
I guess that makes some people uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact.
Okay. Just throwing it out there. It's not money, so.
Correct. And
Yeah.
and so that gives it a plus in my book.
There we go. Me too.
It's like, it's group involvement
Yeah.
and, it could be fun.
It's some entertainment. You know how, like, when you're sitting at a wedding, you don't really know anyone at your table, and you're like, give me something to talk about? Like, that's something everyone can kind of talk
laugh
about.
about.
Boy,
That's
you
fair.
guys sure kiss weird.
That's
Or,
fair.
you know, like, oh, that was cute, or.
It'd be like an icebreaker if you're alone at a wedding. You'd be like, "What'd you think of that?" I don't know.
Maybe for a woman? I just feel like as a dude at a wedding, that's not going to break the ice for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, actually,
But you guys
Like,
would
if it
joke
happened-
about it.
if to someone I already knew, to someone I didn't know, if it was like a really awkward kiss,
If I was
I'd
a
be like,
single
raise
guy at
the
a
eyebrows,
table with
look over.
couples, and I was like, how about that kiss, y'all? Like,
I could probably make
I'm
something
just-
out of it, but that wouldn't be necessarily fun for everyone.
yeah, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not saying don't do it. I think there needs to be a voluntary participation component, and
Yes.
don't count on it being an icebreaker.
Okay.
It might do it for some people. It will not do it for everyone.
I think if it's voluntary, I could see it.
30 seconds. Like, if you don't stand up in 30 seconds, we draw the next name, you know?
30 seconds is a long
That's
wait.
a
That is
long
way too
time.
long, Heidi.
We
That
can
is
do
way
that.
too. Oh my gosh, it's
Like
gonna feel like
4
5 minutes.
seconds.
Jim and Charlene,
Oh, if that was me, I guess I would leave. But
10 seconds
you
left.
better have a really good MC if you're going to do that.
That's what
If you had a
think.
solid MC, they could make it work.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I think, too. Fine, 30 seconds is too long. But you know what I mean? If it's like Jim and Bob and they're not in the room, then we just move on to the next.
First of
wait a
all, I
minute.
hope you don't have
Sorry,
Jim
Jim
and
and Bob.
Jan and Bob. Sorry. Jan and Bob.
Speaking of gay, I want Nick to tell the story about the tuxes.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
all right, a little off topic, but so Heidi knows a little bit. I just went to go get sized up. I was thinking about buying a suit, and I wasn't necessarily going to buy one. And I'm still learning the difference between tuxedo and a suit and other things like that. And since I didn't know, I was obviously a very big pain in the butt to this guy I was dealing with. And as I described him more and more to Dylan just looks at me and he goes, "Are you sure this guy isn't gay?" And I just sat there and I'm like, "Oh, he definitely was," because he was like being very passive, like extremely passive aggressive, but he was also trying to be very polite. Like, this makes me feel silly for even like being like mildly agitated by this situation. So I'm sitting here and he's like having back and forth conversation, also not ever looking me in the eye for more than like half a second. Like, he'll look up and he's constantly looking down while he's talking to me. So I'm not sure, like, are you talking to me, or even his head slightly turned, but he was going on and on just about, like the procedures and whatnot, talking way too fast. Like, okay, like I can't understand everything you're saying. Can't ask him to repeat stuff. He's getting a little annoyed. Well, it's like, oh, you put this on yourself. And as we talk, and as we're talking, he talks. I just told him, he goes, "Oh, well, you're for a wedding party." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I just got married last year." I go, "That's great." And I think I might have asked who's the lucky lady, something along that term, and there never was an answer. So it might have been, I might have dug my own. Not grave, but like, yeah, my own predicament here. And yeah, he was extremely passive aggressive. And then I couldn't make up my mind whether I was going to buy a suit or rent. By the way, everyone, I am renting. That is a lot. But I left, and then I came back in, and I was like, oh, maybe they can size me up quick. I'm going to rent. Because they obviously they don't measure you at all if you're going to buy a suit, which I thought it was tailored. Like, that's why you would go to a place like this to buy a suit, but apparently not. And I'm walking in, and apparently his shift is over, and I met him at the door. He goes, "Oh, hi, Nick." He goes, "See ya, Nick." And he kind of like he didn't quite hit shoulders with me, but I think he wanted
He
to.
almost body checked you on the
In
way.
a
out.
way, yeah. He was rather thin, so I was like, okay. I was like, have a good one. And then his buddy helped me out, or his coworker helped me out. It was fine. But,
No implication as to
Yeah,
whether they are friends
okay.
outside of work.
I mean, it was such a simple thing. Dylan just said, "Is he gay?" And I'm like, oh.
The look on your face when I suggested that, it was so clear that this possibility had not crossed your mind until
Yeah.
that very moment. And then all of the light bulb, you just saw it, bing.
But then he calls me. And I'm like, well, did you get a tux? And then he's like, what do you mean? I only tried on suits. You didn't tell me I was supposed to get a tux. We didn't know what we were talking about. I had to call my
All right,
brother.
Heidi, you had suggested when you called me and I talked to you, you had said, I envisioned you wearing a tuxedo. Did you get one? And I said, no, Heidi, I got a suit. And you're like, I hope you wear a vest. And I'm like, I think a normal suit has a vest. And you're like, I think it's a tuxedo. Yeah.
Are penguin tails required for a tuxedo?
No,
Uh,
No.
you wore a tux.
I wore a tux. I wore a tux.
You had a stripe down your pants, and you wore a vest.
See, I like the
And a bow
vest.
tie.
I like the vest too.
But you did not wear a cummerbund.
What's that?
It's like the weightlifting belt.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
A non-functional weightlifting belt.
Is it there to make you look thinner?
It's
Or
not
what-
that tight.
Oh,
No,
It's in reference to Benedict Cumberbatch, the actor.
Benedict Cumberbatch,
Cumberbatch.
the actor.
We have digressed extremely far. I
Yeah.
think we should return.
Maybe, yes, we should.
I have a suggestion for something that I think I would have done differently for ours. So,
Ooh, wait, I want to hear.
yeah, for the most part, I thought ours was really great. I think that I would have had an official like send off. So for ours,
yeah.
it kind of just like petered out, and we were there until the end, and then we like helped clean up, and then
You did.
yeah, because we were going
Wow.
to go out and like go to a margarita bar with the friends afterward.
That we're all from out of
Because
town.
we had a dry
Yeah.
wedding and all, it was mostly like family and family friends and old people, and so whatever, we wanted to go have young people fun.
Yeah.
Which was great. I'm glad we did that, but I think we could have done that and also had like a send off, because one
Right.
thing I like about weddings that have a send off is there's a defined end point for the guests, and they're not just like awkwardly like, okay, I guess I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah.
If you have a send off, the guests can continue to stay and hang out and talk if they want, or they can be like, all right, I was waiting for the send off, I'm out.
The send off always involves sparklers.
Yeah,
Or
so
typically
depending
does.
on the time of year, you might have to wait a little bit later for it to get dark, but that's just
I'm
a personal
trying-
preference.
So I agree with you, but what if the bride and groom want to stay until whenever they feel like staying?
Then they can do that. This is also getting a little bit to, well, I'm going to bring this up a little bit more in the second part that we do. Point being, I think a send off is a good thing to have. If you're considering not having a send off, fake a send off, because
Yeah, peace out.
again, part of this is it's a bit performative, and some people it is a spectator sport, and so you have to have like stages to the spectator sport.
It depends on what your dance floor looks like too. Because if your dance floor is like bopping until 10, 11 o'clock, then like I wouldn't want to cut that off.
Sure, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because our dance floor was in fact not bopping. The problem was that it was me and like 3 of my groomsmen, and there were no guests that danced at all.
Yeah, see that's
our
then
guests
the
were
send off
90
is
years old.
necessary.
And there were only 100 of us, so
That's my last note though, is know your guests.
Yeah.
A dance might be what everyone does, but if you know that your guests aren't going to dance, you don't need to have one. And I think for us, I was like, well, everyone has a dance. Like, I want to have a dance floor. And it was really nice that we had the DJ who was a father of one of your bridesmaids, and he did a great job, and it was fantastic, and I had fun, but it was literally just the wedding party dancing.
Yeah.
And I think we could have maybe had better foresight to say, there's not going to be a lot of participation here. Maybe we just have an extended mingle session. So, generic advice, know your guest list.
Yes.
Yep.
So the alternative to a
advice.
dance would be just literally mingle.
I mean,
Like, just
literally, like
cocktail hour oh?
yeah,
2.0?
basically cocktail hour 2.0.
Yeah.
For us, dessert hour and whatever.
And
And have like cornhole or like, you know,
Yes.
different things that people
Yeah.
can do
Yeah.
if they're not into dancing. There was a wedding that we went to recently, one of our friends who had, it was actually, I really liked their venue, but they had multiple sets of cornhole available for those who
Yeah,
weren't
in like a
down
loft area.
to be in
Right.
the boppin'. And I know for a fact that they listened to this. So that was solid, y'all.
Yeah.
and their wedding also ended at like 8
Yeah,
on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very reasonable.
It
That
was.
also, I don't know if I'm going to leave this in, also leaves time for the experiencing of the being a married couple thing that you don't want to
After the
do
fact.
at 1 a.m. You'd rather have some energy left for that. I'm just saying.
You're already running all day long, honestly.
Yep.
The whole like sharing everything with everybody all day long and doing all the things logistically.
So I'm
You're
just
tired,
saying,
man.
you want to have some gas left in the tank.
I think I'm gonna have some gas left in the tank personally, but
You say that now. I also thought I was going to have gas left in the tank, and it was great, but I wish I had more gas.
okay.
Running on fumes.
Pretty
It's
much.
true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't
Wish
want
I
to get
had
back
more
and just
gas.
like collapse and be like, I'm so tired.
That's exactly what we
Yeah.
did.
I mean, yeah.
Are there any other things that you want to note in this section? Anybody?
Put a time frame on the speeches
Interesting.
for your people.
Okay.
I'm behind that one.
As in, most people are too short or too long?
Too long. They're
I'm
too
game.
long.
I'm game.
We didn't
yeah.
have that problem.
Yes.
I think our speeches were like,
Ours were great, yes,
Excellent.
but I have been to
Yes.
weddings where they are, or they like. I think open mic is totally fine if like that's what you're into, but definitely need time frames then.
I've never been to an open mic wedding. Yeah,
I've been
that's
to a
if
past
you're
round
not a
open mic.
comedian, you don't need to be talking into the open mic.
Haha, Heidi, your turn.
Yeah.
we are not doing.
Okay.
Did you think we were doing that?
it?
We're not doing that. It's fine. I just put parameters on it. So, moral of the story is no one wants to sit there for a half an hour talking about speeches that. Not that no one cares, but like.
But most people don't.
My sister-in-law let people who were not giving speeches at the wedding give speeches at rehearsal dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like the closer knit
Oh.
people.
I like that idea.
Yeah. So, anyways, there are
That's how I
ideas.
pictured it. I
You can
don't know.
ask people to like not
Swim
do
trunks.
20-minute speeches.
So I'm sure.
Any other notes in this
Oh.
section?
Sorry.
Tips and tricks?
I just got another one.
Okay. I've heard that this is starting to be more commonplace,
Okay.
where you say that the ceremony is at 1:30, but you don't actually start until 1:45.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
I was at a wedding like that once, and I legitimately was like, "Is everything okay? Like, did he show up? Did she show up?"
Do
No.
we have a runaway bride situation?
That's what I was thinking. I was
Start
like,
on time.
"Why are we sitting here for 15 minutes? But it's so that people aren't late." Which I'm
Orchestrated
like,
drama.
please don't be late to a wedding.
You know what you can do? You can pull a page right out of scripture, the parable where the widows and their oil. If you don't show up on time, you are locked out in the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
So weep and
Shut
gnash
the
your
doors.
teeth
Weep
if you
and
do
gnash your
not
teeth.
Shut the
You
come.
don't
doors
get
and
to
lock
come
the
in.
door- lock
Yeah.
them.
And most
That was well
people,
said, Dylan.
most people know to arrive at a wedding 10, 15, 20 minutes early so that you aren't getting in the way of.
Yeah.
Because you got to sign the guest book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta sit down. You don't want to get there at the same time as a bride. That's weird. So you just.
Oh yeah. No.
there
And the
early.
wedding should also start on time.
Yes.
Yep. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Do not be late.
Yes.
We could continue on and on for 3 hours with
We
tips and
could.
tricks. But instead, we're going to say, that's some tips and tricks. Comment below what your favorite
Yeah.
wedding tip or trick would be. If you like one of the ones that we said, if you disagree with us, or if you
Yeah.
have one that we didn't talk about, comment it below. We are going to take a bit of a break for some mortal spirits, and then we're going to come back. This is not at all like wedding-y. Who knows what a tier list is? This is like kind of weird, nerdy internet thing.
Yeah.
Tier lists. Nick knows what tier lists are.
Absolutely.
Heidi looks, she's got a blank stare. Jill only knows what tier lists are recently because she started playing Magic the Gathering. Anyway,
do.
I don't know how rigorous of a tier list we're actually going to do. I don't have a whiteboard, but we are going to be talking about unity ceremonies because there are a lot of them.
Yes.
And some of them are cool and some of them suck. So
Okay.
stay tuned for some mortal spirits and then we'll be hitting unity ceremonies. Okay, we're going to do a bit of a mortal spirits break here. Today I have brought, this is actually a local distillate. It is from Driftless Glen. So Driftless Glen is in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Jill and I had the privilege of visiting Driftless Glen a couple weeks ago, which was a lot of fun. It was actually my first distillery tour that I've ever been to. And so as we're sipping this and tasting this, I'll tell you guys a little bit about that. But this is a straight bourbon whiskey. So it's just pretty standard, not finished or anything unique. It is a hand selected by Total Wine. So it's a barrel select and it is barrel proof. So 123 proof, so it's a little bit higher. Yeah, I don't know. This one is pretty good. I've had this one before. The Embers can see that the bottle is about not quite half empty. But it's very good. I really like their bottle design. So you can see it's like kind of different than a lot of the different ones. And it's got, I believe, the fingerprints on either side of the bottle here are the husband and wife who founded it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very unity.
Yeah, in the
Hey.
theme, which we will be talking about here shortly,
Yeah.
unity ceremonies, you could put your fingerprints into a glass bottle. Would not recommend it. I bet that's really, really hot, and I don't think they actually
Yeah.
stamp their fingers in here. But anyway,
Don't do that live
Driftless
at
Glen.
your wedding.
Yeah.
So go ahead and give it a swirl. The thing about the barrel selects, like this one is that they are all going to be different. So I don't have notes today to tell you what you're supposed to be smelling and tasting. This is going to be an experience just for us because this one is going to be unique from any other store pick.
All right.
Oh.
So I've tasted this one a few times.
It never fails. It never.
Man, they were doing so good, Nick. Did you get a chance to smell it, Nick?
I did.
I don't know. Wow. That one? I can still feel it. I
What
feel
was
that
that?
all the way down my esophagus.
Well, what is
Wow.
that?
I think that's the most burn I've had.
I can just tell by smelling it. Yeah, I know why you have a reaction like that.
Oh,
Very pungent.
And then
It's
it just
still
sits,
burning.
So it is 123 proof. I did warn you.
like right at the top of my
Yeah.
right in the back
did,
of my
you
throat.
did.
Like, it's all
This one is warm for its proof, I would say. You feel all 123 proof of it. So some of them drink below their proof. This one, I would say, doesn't really.
Nope. Oh, I feel like I have heartburn.
I don't like it.
Okay.
Here, maybe give
Oh, you don't like it?
No.
So for me,
It smells good.
you're gonna get your caramels, your vanillas. I think that there's some dark fruits in here. But for me, the first time that I tasted this, and I continue to. So one of the hobbies that I enjoy doing is smoking pipe and cigars, and so there's a very distinct aroma associated with not like cigarettes. I think don't smell very good, but pipe tobacco and cigars, they have a certain like heavy sort of
No, I agree.
earthiness that I really like. And I get that in the nose and on the mouth. I get that little bit of smokiness associated with like my cherry Cavendish that I like to smoke in my pipe. So for me, I really do tremendously like this one. And I like it even more now because we went and visited the distillery. Blah, blah, blah.
Did you do like tasting at the distillery?
Yes. So the tour
I
went
didn't
like
do the
this.
tour.
Jill
you
did
did?
not do the tour. I
Okay.
went with another one of my friends
I
who I've mentioned
went
a number
to
of times.
lunch and had dessert.
Yes.
I was eating a chocolate brownie while he was tasting these.
Ooh, this would go good with a brownie, maybe.
It could.
Ooh,
Yeah,
brownie
sometimes
and
they do.
ice cream.
The no, I got to do it with one of my friends who I've mentioned a few times. He's also a whiskey connoisseur. But it was a good time. I've never toured a distillery before, so it was interesting to see. I have toured breweries though. So one thing that they do have in common is they have their mash. So we've talked about mash bill as a component of the way that whiskey works. So they take all their grains, they ferment them. It usually takes on the order of a few days actually just to do the fermenting part. And then they boil it off. And so you end up with the juice, right? The unaged stuff that makes whiskey in the span of, a weekish.
Oh, wow.
So it's very quick. The part that takes a long time is aging it. And so they kind of showed us the process of going from the grain to the mash to getting the distillate. And then the really cool part of the tour for me was they took us back to where they store all the barrels. And the warehouse just smelled like whiskey. It was so good. It smelled so nice. And it was interesting to see they had a couple of staves. So we've talked about the barrels. They have to be new American charred white oak barrels. And so they had a couple of the staves so you could see them. So when I say charred, it looks like a chunk of wood out of a campfire,
Ooh.
the way that it's charred. And then you can see in the cross section, there's something called the devil's cut, where you can see how deep the alcohol has absorbed into the wood as the temperature changes and it gets sucked in and out. And so it's extracting the flavor out of the wood barrel, which is really interesting. So that was cool. And then we did get to do a tasting as well. So we tasted some of their different whiskeys. They had a brandy. They had a tequila that was finished in bourbon barrels. And they had a very nice American single malt, which is like a Scotch but not made in Scotland. So overall, I think that some of their lower proof stuff is fine. It's not anything to write home about. I do like this higher proof one, which I know you guys aren't a tremendous fan of because it burns a lot.
It really
I-
does.
And this might be a controversial opinion. I think some people are not as much a fan. I really liked their American single malt. So if you're in the area and looking to get some Driftless Glen, that would be my recommendation.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was Mortal Spirits, the Driftless Glen, single barrel straight bourbon whiskey at 123 proof. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Well, now we are going to jump into our tier list. And for those that don't know or don't engage in very nerdy things like some of us, Heidi included, I will give a brief overview of what a tier list is. But this one specifically is going to be surrounding unity ceremonies. And man, oh man, in my research, I knew that there were a lot of them out there from weddings that I'd attended and things I'd heard of. However, there were so many more. So many. So,
First off, can you tell us what a unity ceremony is?
yes, there are unity ceremonies. Probably the most traditional and common would be the unity candle. So it is a activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an activity that the bride and the groom participate in during their wedding. And it is generally some form of taking like two things, one from the groom, one from the bride, bringing them together to be one thing, signifying this marriage.
Okay.
And the unity that we experience in marriage being one flesh. 'Cause
Correct.
That's definitionally how marriage works.
So there are a lot of them, but we're going to have this grading scale. So the grading scale for normal tier list is S is the very top, and then A, B, C, D, F.
So it's like giving it a grade,
Got it.
Yes.
except S is the top tier.
Right. S being
S
the very
tier.
top tier.
S is A.
The best.
Well, no, A is A.
There
S
still
is
is
like
A plus.
S is above
S
A.
is superior.
Yes. Oh, wonderful.
There you go.
Correct. Superior.
Okay.
And I would say that some of the things to take into consideration, the things that we'll kind of be grading on, I would say that uniqueness can be both a plus and a minus. So, however you like to take that, but uniqueness. I also think a plus or minus could be uniqueness going kind of towards the other direction, and that's just like weird. Just like, how weird is it? Also, maintainable or like sustainable. You can, little spoiler alert on my opinion on this, but like Unity sand, that thing's getting knocked over. It is not going to be sustainable. I'm just telling you, it's not going to look pretty red and blue sand forever. And also like timeless, because some people have come up with some crazy ideas over the years and they just don't work in 2024. Or maybe there'll be a trend for 2024 and you will never see them again. And then you will be sad that you got married in 2024 and followed some TikTok unity trend. And you're like, why'd I do that at my wedding?
Yep.
So that will be our primary standards for these gradings.
Cool.
Okay. I have like general philosophical observations about unity ceremonies, which I will make probably first.
Okay.
And then I will interject as you guys go through your list and tell.
Got it.
So anyway, this is just like, I thought broadly about unity ceremonies. And again, we said this at the beginning. If we list your unity ceremony and give it an F tier, that doesn't mean that you suck as a person. We just wouldn't do it ourselves.
Which is
it was
great.
maybe great for you. So do not get offended. You are not permitted to be offended by what we have to say.
Yes.
Okay. Are unity ceremonies overdone? Yes. I think that you don't have to have a unity ceremony. I think also it has to do with this, like, I saw it on Pinterest and I thought it was totes adorbs, and so we're going to do it. This is your wedding.
Right.
This isn't about being totes adorbs. It needs to have significance beyond, I saw this on Pinterest or on TikTok and it was cool in the moment, because you only get one shot at this. So
Yes.
think longevity, timelessness, like Jill was saying, okay? Generally speaking, family traditions, great. If your family has a certain thing that they do at weddings, historically, your mom did it or your dad did it, and back and back and back, that's a cool unity ceremony. Cultural traditions. There are a number of the ones in the list that you made that are cultural traditions. Those are cool too. Anything else, I am going to rate lower because I think that it falls in the category of Instagram or TikTok trend. Not cool. I also think that if you get a memento out of it, that is a plus.
It's a bonus.
Because you will remember nothing about your wedding ceremony. You will do the thing and then you will promptly forget that you ever did the thing. And so if you don't have anything other than the pictures,
Wait, really?
yes.
Generally, yes.
Yes, the only memory I have are the pictures that were taken. So having a good photographer is important.
That's true.
But if you want to have a good unity ceremony, you should have something that you can take out of it. Now, not all mementos are created equal. Some mementos really suck. For example, I've seen people, you're going to talk about unity painting. You might not be a good painter. You're going to get 30 seconds to make this unity painting that represents your marriage for the rest of your life in 30 seconds.
But I was going to talk about unity painting, but it's not unity painting as what you're saying. You get 30 seconds to paint a pretty picture. It's I get red and you get blue and we dump it like across the top of a canvas and somewhere in the middle it like blends to purple and just like dripping down the canvas.
I saw pictures of people with brushes.
Oh, okay. Well, mine wasn't that. Mine was this other
thing. For the
thing.
tier list, we can do yours. I'm just saying, I saw people, there were 2 people, they had brushes, they were painting a picture. If you are not an artist.
Can you imagine?
Nick will do the painting, you can dot the I's.
Yay.
If you are not an artist, you're going to have to look at this for the rest of your marriage, and it's going to hang on your wall. And if it sucks,
You'll be like,
that's
that
a bad
sucks.
memento, okay? No.
It might go in the closet.
Next one. I've seen a lot of people do like the braided rope or the knot.
Yes.
Where are you going to display a knot? How,
rope?
Like you set it on a shelf and people are like, did you mean to put that in the garage or like?
If it's attached to a nice thing that you put on the wall.
Sure. The picture I saw was people. They had 2 ends of a
was
rope
just
and they were
rope.
rowing on it.
You're
Yeah.
kidding.
Like
That's-
it kind of looked like a really thick piece of twine.
And I was like,
That's poor planning.
how are you going to display that
And what
the
does
rest
it
of your marriage?
How I would display it, not really, but I would have a board right above it, and I'd have the rope hanging with a knot, and I would say we tied the knot and then the date. Just kidding.
That is very corny.
Yeah, that is horrible. I'm sorry
Yeah.
I said that out loud.
You should be. Anyway, the point being, not all mementos are created equal. We did communion, which I would actually say is not a unity ceremony.
No,
I
it's a
think
religious
that
ceremony.
communion is different than a unity ceremony, but we still got a memento because we got the goblet custom engraved.
Oh, cool.
And so we still have that. So it wasn't a unity ceremony, and we got a memento out of it. It was very good. So
Wonderful. I also
Those are my
want to
2
say,
cents.
like, culturally, there are different ones that we might think are a little odd, but are
Yes.
important for a
Yes.
culture.
which is why I said if you have a cultural
Yeah.
tradition,
Family
that's
tradition,
great.
yeah.
We might dunk on it because it is silly to our sensibilities here.
Yes.
Again, you're not allowed. We already said you're not allowed to be offended. So
Yeah.
And
You
but
can not like our unity ceremony and we might not like yours.
yep. All right. So
Starting
Jill,
off the
kick
list.
us off.
Yeah. I'm just going to kick us off with unity candles because it's probably the most common thing that people
It's simple.
immediately know of. As far as the uniqueness, right? It's low, but it's also a low weirdness because it's not that weird. It's going to be relatively maintainable. You will have the candles, I guess, if you want to keep them.
yes.
And as far as timeless, I would say it probably ranks the highest on that, right? Because it is the thing that it doesn't matter if you tell your grandma or your great grandma about unity candles, she'll be like, yes, I know what that is.
I am going to rate it as an S.
An S.
An S.
You think it's like the best possible?
I was gonna
think
give it
Heidi
a
doesn't
B.
understand how
I was going to give it a B.
You're gonna rate all of them S. Okay? You got to have like a base.
Before you said that, she was going to.
You think it's like
No.
legitimately the best?
I really
One of the
do.
best.
And
Okay.
here's why. My parents have a unity candle. So I always thought like candle, it's just going to like dwindle down over time. You're going to lose the sentimental value. But they have a glass candle with oil in it. And so
It's like a lantern.
it's like a lantern. You keep that forever.
And they lit it with 2 separate candles,
Yep.
wax candles.
Yep. So you light it with 2 separate. And they always had it on their dresser. So it was like out in their room, and they looked at it every day. And I think it was really cool for the sentiment.
It is
of
cool.
it.
That was also good planning ahead on their part instead of using a wax candle in the center, because I've seen that done. And then I would give the maintainable or sustainable
Right.
grade slightly lower. But the lantern or the glass,
Did they actually light it?
They must have. I never saw it lit, but they must have at some point because the oil was going down. I don't want to think about it, but that's probably true. And I definitely, I like that though.
We're moving on.
all right, anyway, I would give it a B because it's also not very unique, but if you give it an S and that's a B, I think we could probably give it an A.
Okay,
I think so too.
cool.
Cool. Next one, there is these are kind of one, kind of off the same branch here. And that is a pun because it's tree planting and tree watering.
Oh, I don't like these. I will tell you why, but I
Oh.
want to hear yours first.
So planting plants, trees usually, or bringing soil from both of your hometowns, dumping it on a tree, and then watering it with water from both of your hometowns. Personally,
Oh, that's weird.
I don't think it's unique anymore because
I think a lot of people have done it.
people have done it.
I don't think it's necessarily
Kind of weird.
I'm like, what if the tree dies?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
Awkward.
also for the most part, like maintainable and sustainable, the number of times people that like move and stuff, like if you plant it at your house that you move into when you first get married and then you're like, oh, sad, we're moving. You're probably not going to dig your tree up with you. So it's not a very good memento because you're not taking it with you.
I wonder how many of the trees in our yard were someone else's unique trees.
I mean,
Right.
honestly.
And you'd never know. Yeah,
So
the tree.
unfortunately, I kind of give it a low score in the maintainable and sustainable grading as well. And the timeless thing, I kind of think
It's
I feel like in the last like 10 years it's been like really popular, but I don't feel like it was before that. And I bet in 10 years from now, someone will come up with something else that's not super timeless.
Yeah, I rate it like a C.
Same.
Or a
I would have put
D.
it right in a solid C,
Yeah.
maybe a D. We kind of hinted at this one earlier, but there is a combination between rope braiding and knot tying. So it involves string being combined. The knot tying is just kind of a bad pun because that's literally what people call a wedding sometimes, tying
Yeah.
the knot. And rope braiding, generally it's braiding because that one does have some roots in Christianity because you have 3 strands.
A cord of 3 strands is
Cord
not
of 3
easily broken.
strands stronger than
Yes.
yes. Groom, bride, God.
Jesus.
Anyway, again on those ones, like they're trying to be unique. I think they're a little weird. They're relatively sustainable, I guess, but like you were saying earlier, like what are you gonna do for your rope? Like
Yeah.
The other thing is, I feel like this is something that's special for you as a couple. When people make it a performance, okay, so we're going back to secondhand embarrassment.
yes.
Like, if your ceremony is making everybody in the audience like, oh, when are they going to be done with whatever this thing is, right? Like,
yeah.
it's awkward.
It is
awkward.
awkward.
So, again, I'm just going to toot our own horn here. The communion was like privately off to the side. People knew what we were doing, but like your dad didn't stand up in front of everyone and be like, and this is the cup of the new covenant, right? Privately to us. And so it was very nice. It was a good experience for
It was
us.
while we signed our marriage license, so it is just that moment in the ceremony period that like people are gonna have to sit there and listen to the music for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a performance is what I'm trying to say.
So personally, the rope braiding, knot tying, grouping, I would probably also land that right in the C range.
I'm gonna give it a B.
Oh,
I think if you are not a Christian, it's super lame. Like I'm gonna give it like a D. Like why would I don't get the
Right.
rope thing. But if you're a Christian, and maybe I'm biased because my brother and sister-in-law did this, they had a really nice like plaque, and it said a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken, and then obviously the rope was attached to the plaque, and they did it, and it
so
took
they
like
planned ahead.
30 seconds. Yeah, and it was like up in front for the time, and like I thought it was really nice, and then they'll keep that and put that in
Yeah.
their house for forever.
They can
So
bring it with them, unlike a tree.
yes, you can
Right.
bring it with you. It's a nice sentiment. They have the Bible verse on it. I think it makes sense. But if you're not a Christian, like I'm not, like
Yeah,
what are you
like
doing?
solid D.
No,
Maybe
solid
an
D for
F,
sure.
honestly. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you're braiding rope just because you're like, it looks cool. And you're like, this means nothing to you.
Right. But if you do it in a way that it's
It can
presentable,
be done tastefully.
yes, then I think it's like a B.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So then you have Unity Sand,
Yeah, I don't get this.
which I mentioned earlier as a thing. The sustainability is 0. Again, did you ever make those sand animals and
Yes.
stuff when you were kids and you could buy the plastic thing that was like a turtle and you could fill it with the different colored sands and so they became rainbows? Well, my sister was really big into that. She loved them and she was very good at it. Most things artistic, so hers always turned out really cute. Like she'd have like yellow and then like darker green and lighter green in the bottom, and then hers like turned out really nice. And her obnoxious younger sister, me, would come around and shake them, and then they'd just be brown sand. Well, guess what, married couple? Some kid in your life, or you in moving or doing something, someone's going to shake that sand.
Yeah. Is it usually different colors?
2 different colors.
Yeah.
And then the idea is that it's just as impossible as it would be to separate the sand back out into its 2 individual colors, so too your lives cannot be
Separated.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So the sentiment is there, but again, I think it's dumb.
It just doesn't work, though. So that's a D. That's a D for me. Sand's a D.
If you did sand, more power to you.
I think it's
I think it's great too.
Nick, take an opinion, man.
I thought we were supposed to give our opinions. No, I'm sorry, but I was laughing a lot because I think it's silly and you just loved it.
I'm gonna give it a B.
All right.
I think it's good, and it's
Now, I think there's a way to engineer a solution to this. I'm thinking if you were to then pour clear resin down over the sand after the fact,
yes, preserve it.
and then it would be like this, like block of resin essentially, and it would freeze the sand in place.
That would be very
That
cool.
could be a way to do it, and I think that there are some that allow you to do that. I don't know.
You'd have to plan ahead again.
It feels
Yeah.
performative to me. You get a memento out of it, but there's a performance aspect, so it gets less
Yeah.
points for me.
It's all a
Then-
perform. Like at some point, it's gonna be a little bit of a. Performance.
I don't think it has to be though. I think it can be between the couple and God, and it doesn't need to be something that's a lavish display for all of the guests to see.
I mean, the display for all the guests to see was already your vows and your exchange of rings that you were doing out loud, verbally, and physically in front of everyone.
It's my opinion.
There you go.
Anyway, then we can go into some of the more cultural ones, which unfortunately for me, they're all going to like happily land in an F through C because they just don't mean anything to me,
Sure.
but they probably mean something great to people.
And they score very high for me because, again, if you are of this culture and it
Correct.
is meaningful for you outside of I saw this on Pinterest,
Right.
that's a very good reason to do a ceremony like this.
Yeah.
So in the Celtic culture, they do something called hand fasting. So it's kind of like the idea of the braiding ties, but they take you hold hands, and they actually the pastor will hand fast them is what it is.
You just wrap like
You just
a
wrap things
cord or
yeah,
a cloth around their hands.
around their hands to symbolize this unity.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then. This one was kind of funny to me, but in German culture, some people do log cutting.
Yes, I looked this one up. I felt obligated
That's
to, as I am
fun.
a lot German. Nick, you're nodding like you know what this is.
No, I'm nodding in approval of like, yes, finally,
Okay.
something symbolic.
It's called Baumstammsagen. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Absolutely.
And this represents overcoming challenges as a team in marriage. So it presents you with your first challenge. So it's
Yeah.
a log, and then
Sorry,
they have one of
it's
those
a
big,
big log
long
with the
saws
double.
where you grab both sides of
Have you
it.
ever tried to do that?
Uh-uh.
It's so much work.
Okay. First challenge overcome
like
is
marriage.
Yeah.
Oh my word! You
That's
get
the point.
sweaty, and it takes a long time unless you have a
Oh,
little log.
I think the ones I saw in the pictures are like, they're about that big around, so it's not huge.
So you just like.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a German thing. Baumstammsagen.
So that was
Should do
kind of
that.
entertaining.
We're both fairly
Uh,
German.
In Hispanic and like Filipino culture, they do a unity lasso.
So they lasso you together?
So in Filipino culture, it does tend to appear that it is much more kind of like a lei.
Sure.
Like Hawaiian leis, they have like a flowery one lasso that they lasso between everyone. But a couple of the photos from the Hispanic culture were like straight up like rope lassos.
Yes.
So
Cool.
That is cool.
yes, and in Chinese culture, they do both unity tea and noodle eating.
I love tea.
Food-based. I like it.
So
That's great.
it is like
No memento, though.
yeah,
Right.
it's a
Unless it's like a cute teapot.
well, that's the thing. The teas sometimes did. So they had like, they'd bring tea leaves that were maybe specific to whichever area in China they came from, brew the tea and pour it in. And then the pot was their memento.
So it's a
Sweet.
consumable food-based version of the tree, and you get a teapot out of it. I am a huge fan.
That's cool.
Um,
Unity hand washing.
yes. And foot washing.
Are those unity ceremonies, though?
So I was last weekend at a wedding, and the groom was Thai. So in Thailand, they do the hand washing, and so they have this conch shell that's used, and then you pour water into the conch shell, and the important people in the bride and groom's lives, like their parents, will come and pour water from the conch shell onto the bride and groom's hands that they're kind of holding out in front of them, and it falls either on the ground or they had it fall into like a pot of flowers.
If you're inside and you don't want to just dump water all over the floor.
Right, yeah, you like over a pot of flowers. And it was really cool because apparently in Thailand that was the only thing that was required for a marriage
Was to wash
in
your hands.
history. Yeah, it was the hand washing. So it was very meaningful.
So in a cultural grade, probably an A.
Yes.
But for us,
For us, like
If you're not Thai,
if you're not Thai, I wouldn't recommend it, but it was very cool to see.
And then we can grade the Unity painting that we discussed previously, which Dylan saw actual painting occurring. I saw just two colors, basically, kind of like, you remember when the crayon thing was popular with the hair dryer and you like taped the crayon to the top of the canvas, you blew a hair dryer down it and they all melted.
Yeah.
and
That
you
was
were
the
how
one.
old? You were like 6 when you did that?
It was on Pinterest when I was in high school, probably.
Again,
That was a big
Pinterest.
thing when I was in high school.
Yeah.
No,
Anything
I
in
think
high school.
I think no.
Yeah.
Also, the standards of what is beautiful have dipped so extremely far. So we can get in a whole side tangent how I feel about modern art and how it's a
Yes.
literal assault on God's created order of beauty. And so
But-
having some paint that just smear down the canvas, that no.
Not gonna cut it.
Not gonna cut it. So anyway, that's a solid F for me. I was like, it's just a mess.
Yeah, and you're probably not gonna hang it anywhere.
No.
Nope.
Like Nick said, it's probably going in a closet.
Yeah.
The back. Okay, what's the thing where people jump over?
A broom.
Is it a broom?
There's jumping over a broom, and in Jewish culture, they smash glass.
So again, I think both of those are cultural.
Both
What is
cultural.
smashing glass? Like you
They, so like
take
literally
glass
like a
and smash-
vase, let's say like a glass vase, they wrap it in a towel, and the two of them jump on it when they get married, and they exit.
Kind of like that.
That's
I
kind of.
don't I don't think they're barefoot.
I hope not.
I hope not. That would hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would.
cultural.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we have now gone through a long list of these. Nick,
Yeah.
of the options that we have presented and or anything that you can come up with on your own that was not presented, are you going to do a unity ceremony at your wedding? I think the answer to that is yes, because Heidi wants one. And if so, what will it be?
So yeah, I would like to do a unity ceremony. What I personally would like to do, this is just my initial thoughts again. I really like, as soon as we brought up the lasso one, I was like, all right, like lassoing like a calf or something. Like nothing would be cooler than that. But of course, as we talked
Not even
about
sawing a log?
that might be cooler than sawing a log. Sawing a log is very cool. Just like going around, like we like briefly put on cowboy hats. I know it's, but anyways, like,
But they would lasso
initial
us.
thoughts. I'm not saying, yeah, but then as we
But he
explained
would
it,
get to wear a cowboy hat.
I thought we would initially like together lasso
Oh.
something and be like, look, we're partners for life.
Partner.
Okay, I thought that was great, but it's not anywhere near that. So
Maybe you're gonna start your own trend.
So no, Heidi wants to know what you think Or maybe
I know
phrase
what
it-
she wants to. I know what she wants.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I would say, honestly, out of everything we went through, I really like the Unity Communion. But I think Heidi is going to want to do candles.
Good job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Similar to your
Unity-
parents.
Yes, similar to my parents.
Okay.
Well, now that we have helped you guys come to a conclusion on
Yeah.
what potentially is going to be your own unity ceremony coming up.
I like candle.
Yeah, candles
The
good.
reason you listed it as S tier is because that's the one you wanted to do.
Silly.
Well, that's
I didn't
fair. I
wanna
list something. I wanted S tier.
Yeah, I didn't want to put it as an A, and then people are like, well, you didn't put it as an S. Whatever.
Fair.
Well, thank you, Ember, so much for joining us in this fun conversation. I had fun discussing with you guys about the different things, especially the Unity ceremonies. If you agree or disagree, or you have a Unity ceremony that we didn't talk about that you think would be cool, throw it in the comments below. Otherwise, let us know what you thought.
Wherever you're listening, give us a like, drop us a review, leave a comment. We'd love if you would share with your friends. The only way we can get the word out about this is with your help.
Yeah, and we are on short form as well, so Instagram, YouTube Shorts. So if you want to just get little snippets of us, feel free to like and comment below those too.
And X specifically, that's the space if you really want to engage with us and have a longer conversation. Check out our shorts on X for sure.
Yes.
I watch those pretty closely.
And we'd like to hear ideas and suggestions for future episodes.
Absolutely.
And just thank you for being an awesome part of our community. And as always, burn bright embers.